My name is Melissa and I want to tell you about something that happened to me. The email hit my inbox at 7:01 a.m. on a rainy Thursday. Subject line, let's put our best foot forward, complete with 3 sparkling shoe emojis, classic Tiffany. I skimmed it once, then again corporate fluff disguised as policy. But there it was, buried in the second paragraph. Effective immediately, all employees are expected to comply with revised appearance guidelines, particularly concerning textile choices deemed non-traditional. I didn't need a memo to tell me who that was aimed at. No one else in compliance wore tailored wool trousers or structured jackets with clean lines. The others floated in every morning wrapped in sagging khakis, shiny synthetic blends, or discount pencil skirts that rode up like they had a grudge. But me, I dressed like I gave a damn, and apparently that made me dangerous because success in a well-cut suit threatens people who mistake authority for competence. Tiffany 32, HR manager, professional grudge holder in nude heels, didn't like women she couldn't control. It started months ago when she accidentally saw my salary during a budget meeting. I'll never forget the way her smile froze when she realized I wasn't some junior analyst making entry-level crumbs. The moment she saw those numbers, something shifted in her eyes. Envy mixed with disbelief, then hardened into something uglier. Ever since, it felt like I had a target on my back, painted there by someone who confused being loud with being important. By 10:13 a.m., Tiffany strolled by my desk, her signature cloud of vanilla body spray arriving before she did. She moved with that particular brand of false confidence that comes from having just enough authority to be dangerous, but not enough experience to wield it wisely. "Oh, hey, Melissa," she said, dragging out my name like she was savoring each syllable. "Just wanted to check in. You had a chance to review the updated dress policy?" I didn't look up from my screen where I was reviewing classified procurement schedules that she couldn't even access. "I did. Nothing in there applies to me." 2 seconds later, Brenda appeared. Tiffany's shadow, the kind of woman who'd rat out her own mother for a pat on the head. "We're really trying to create a cohesive visual identity," Brenda chirped. "Sometimes older styles send mixed messages." I finally met their eyes. "Mixed messages to whom?" "The Pentagon." Brenda's grin wobbled. Tiffany smirked. "Just making sure we're aligned," Tiffany said sweetly. "Some people don't realize when they're pushing the line." I set my coffee down. "I don't push lines, I write them." Section 1(a) of the Federal Compliance Manual supersedes any HR memo. "I'm sure you read that. If you read at all." Her jaw locked. They turned and walked off, whispering like they just dethroned a prom queen. At 2:04 p.m., Tiffany came back. This time, she circled my desk like a shark that had read too many LinkedIn articles about leadership. "Oh, well," she said, voice syrupy and loud. "Those pants are interesting." I blinked slow. Charcoal gray trousers, tailored, subtle herringbone. Tiffany had apparently appointed herself fashion police. "I wasn't sure if you'd seen the handbook update," she went on. "Section 1 for B. You did read it, right?" I took a sip of my coffee. "I edited it. Found 3 typos. By the way," Brenda snorted. Tiffany fake laughed. "It's about cohesion," Brenda chirped. "Team synergy starts with fabric integrity." I turned my chair toward them. "Is this a formal HR complaint?" "Oh no, just a conversation." "Woman to woman, good," I said. "Because my contract doesn't include fake conversations about personal taste pretending to be policy." Tiffany leaned in, dropping her voice but keeping it fake sweet. "Just making sure we're seen as reliable professionals, especially with sensitive government work coming up. We wouldn't want the wrong impression." And there it was. So she did know something was brewing. I looked her dead in the eyes. "The Department of Defense cares about classified data, not pinstripes." Her smile cracked before she walked off. But I knew this wasn't about dress codes. It was about control. I glanced down at my purse where my black DSS-issued badge sat zipped. Inside, silent and waiting, clearance level, top secret. The kind of clearance that took 6 months of vetting, home inspections, background checks, interviews with neighbors who barely knew me, and a polygraph test that felt like psychological warfare. The kind of clearance this entire $50 million contract depended on. The kind that couldn't be transferred, couldn't be replaced quickly, and couldn't be revoked without federal oversight. They thought they were firing an employee. They had no idea they were about to cripple their most lucrative government partnership. I smiled to myself. The official calendar invite hit at 3:12 p.m. Subject line: HR matter. Immediate attention required. No explanation. Just a time slot. 15 minutes from now in room 3C. I locked my terminal and stood up. It felt like standing for my own execution. When I stepped into room 3C, Tiffany was already seated at the head of the table, iPad angled just so. To her right sat Brenda, nervously twirling a pink gel pen. To the left, Cal Morton, Senior Operations Manager, the same Cal who once said my 70-page audit was a lot of words for compliance staff. He looked wildly uncomfortable. Melissa, Tiffany said with that faux warm smile. Thanks for joining us. I was ordered to, I replied, sitting down with practiced calm. Brenda cleared her throat and unfolded a printed script, literal script, hands shaking. This is a formal termination meeting, she began, voice rehearsed, conducted in accordance with corporate procedure. I blinked once. Tiffany jumped in, eyes gleaming. Due to repeated non-compliance with the updated dress code and a pattern of insubordination, the company has no choice but to terminate your employment, effective immediately. Brenda slid a document across the table. Final notice stamped in. Bold red letters. I scanned it. My name, employee ID, defiance. That word appeared 3 times. No mention of my clearance. No mention of performance metrics. Nothing about the 6-figure contract I'd been shepherding. Just buzzwords like team cohesion and cultural alignment. I felt nothing. No anger, no panic, just a hollow vacuum where belief used to be. I see, I said quietly. So I'm being terminated for dress code violations. Among other behavioral concerns, yes, such as Brenda fumbled. Tone, resistance, comments perceived as undermining leadership. Let's not make this harder than it has to be. Tiffany cut in, voice sharp. I gave a dry laugh. You already did that when you turned woven wool into a crime. We have standards, Tiffany said. You have obsessions, I replied. I have clearance. That landed like a punch. Tiffany opened her mouth, but nothing came out. A flicker of movement caught my eye, the glass wall behind them. On my locked terminal, a notification pulsed softly. DSS, system check-in overdue. Tiffany noticed it, smirked. Guess you won't be needing that anymore. I said nothing. I just stared at the blinking alert. They hadn't connected the dots. Not yet. Someone from IT will escort you out. Please collect your belongings, Brenda said softly. I stood smooth, calm. Wouldn't want to cause a security breach. Tiffany gave a tight laugh. Let's not be dramatic, Melissa. I turned toward the door, then stopped. You just fired the only person in this building who knows how to keep your government contract from collapsing like a dollar store tent. 3 faces, blank and comprehending. I smiled, slow and sharp. Enjoy your fabric integrity. They gave me one of those insultingly small cardboard boxes. I packed quickly the photo of my sister and me at Arches National Park, my legal pad full of compliance notes and procurement deadlines, the small cactus I'd kept alive for 3 years despite the office fluorescent hostility. I left the rest deliberately. The spreadsheets tracking federal deliverables, the half-finished reports on data security protocols, the encrypted access logs that blinked quietly on my monitor like a heartbeat. They'd need those. The Pentagon expected monthly updates, quarterly reviews, and seamless data transitions. Without me, they wouldn't know what any of it meant. Without me, they'd be explaining to federal oversight why their security protocols had more holes than a screen door. At the bottom of my drawer sat my black DSS clearance badge. I picked it up slowly, a slim black card with a barely visible RFID chip and a number that unlocked federal databases they didn't even know existed. Databases containing defense contractor profiles, classified project timelines, and security assessment reports that could make or break a company's entire government relationship. I slipped it into its protective sleeve, the one stamped with warnings about federal prosecution for misuse, and zipped it into my bag. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were so focused on controlling how I looked, they'd forgotten to consider what I actually did. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I made my way toward the exit, box in hand, walking through a gauntlet of awkward corporate sympathy. Marketing said nothing, but I could feel their eyes tracking my movement like I was a cautionary tale in motion. Accounting whispered condolences in voices just loud enough to demonstrate their concern, but quiet enough to avoid association with my downfall. The interns pretended to be deeply invested in their spreadsheets, probably wondering if this was how their own careers would end someday. Mark, my supervisor, materialized just long enough to stammer something about being sorry to see me go, his words tumbling over each other in his haste to distance himself from the situation. Then he scurried off into the warm embrace of corporate cowardice, leaving behind the faint scent of nervous perspiration and abandoned loyalty. I was halfway across the lobby when the glass doors swung open. Two people entered, a man and a woman, in matching dark suits, clean lines, quiet, confident movements. No logos, no name tags, just black lapel pins with small silver rings. The unmistakable insignia of the Defense Security Service. The woman walked half a step ahead, scanning the room. The man flanked her, posture tight as a coiled spring. They weren't here for ONBARDING. I froze. I'd seen DSS agents before. During my clearance process, they didn't knock unless something had gone catastrophically wrong. They stopped at the front desk. The woman leaned in, voice low but firm. "We need to speak with Walter Phelps, head of security, and Brian Denning, your CEO, immediately. They're in meetings." "Can I?" The man cut in. Not a request. The receptionist fumbled for the phone like her hands had gone numb. A sharp ding cut through the air. The executive elevator. Out stepped Tiffany, trying to walk like nothing was wrong. Chin up, posture stiff, but her face too pale. Brenda stumbled out behind her. They both moved fast, cutting across the lobby with fake confidence. Tiffany didn't glance at me until she passed. Her eyes flicked toward mine and jerked away like I'd burned her. I didn't smile. I just watched. She disappeared into a conference room with the agents. The lobby fell quiet, that strange silence you only hear after something explodes. Voices started low inside the room, then sharper. Fragments floated out. Unauthorized access, clearance breach, protocol violation. It didn't take long. Then Brian Denning arrived, sweating, breathless, necktie yanked crooked. He bulldozed past the receptionist, eyes locked on me like I was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. "Melissa," he said, smiling too wide, "would you mind stepping into my office just for a quick chat?" I didn't move. I no longer work here. "You'll have to make an appointment, please. It'll only take a minute." I stood slow, deliberate. "I'm sure your team can handle it. After all, it's just fabric, right?" The color drained from his face. I brushed past him toward the glass doors. Behind me, the conference room door opened. Tiffany came out, shaking, hands clasped together like she was trying to hold herself upright. I didn't stop. I knew that look, the exact moment a person realizes they've set a fire they can't put out. I'd barely made it 5 steps when I heard steady footsteps. The DSS agents approached. "Miss Reynolds," the woman asked. I raised an eyebrow. "Still AM, unless you're here to revoke that too." The man gave the faintest smile. "We understand today's events were unexpected. We'd like a moment of your time." Behind them, Brian and Tiffany stood near the ficus plant, looking hollowed out. They weren't in charge anymore. I nodded. Of course, the agents flanked me, guiding us to the seating area near reception, out in the open where the entire floor could see I wasn't being detained. I was the one they wanted cooperation from. "We're reviewing the protocol breach related to your termination," Agent Miller said. Your clearance record is impeccable. Your work on the Q3 classified data audit flagged attention at the federal level. I nodded. I followed procedure. Agent Rossi nodded back. Exactly. Which is why we're hoping you'll assist with the next phase of the project. The contract still stands. The contractor, however, ... She glanced toward Brian, who looked like a man watching his career slip away. Brian stepped forward, voice trembling with desperation. Melissa, let's be reasonable here. Obviously, mistakes were made. I want to formally offer you your position. Back and a raise, 15%, senior title. The lobby fell silent. I tilted my head, letting the words hang. The salary you can afford wouldn't even cover the therapy I'd need to forget working for you. Dead silence. Brian turned toward the agents. Maybe we could work something out. Agent Rossi shook her head. Calm but final. We'll handle this. The government still needs this project completed. Just not by you. I allowed myself the smallest smile. For the first time all day, it felt right. We have a field office nearby, Agent Miller said. You'll be compensated for your time, of course. Brian looked like he'd been punched. Tiffany looked like she might faint, mascara smudged, lips parted but nothing coming out. I adjusted my purse strap. Let's go. As we walked toward the exit, the entire office held its breath. I didn't look back because I didn't need to. We stepped into the afternoon heat. Halfway to their government sedan, Agent Miller's phone buzzed. He walked back toward the building while Rossi and I waited through the glass. I watched him stride into the conference room where Brian was trying to project authority he no longer had, flanked by Tiffany, who looked like she'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. Miller dropped a manila folder onto the table, thick, official, with government seals visible even from my distance. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I could read the progression of disaster across their faces. Brian's confident posture crumbled as he opened the folder. Tiffany's hand flew to her throat when she saw the letterhead. Cal Morton, who'd been lurking in the background, actually stepped backward like the papers might explode. The federal audit notification was probably just the beginning. There would be questions about security protocols, reviews of personnel decisions, investigations into whether classified information had been compromised by their management chaos. Brian's face went from confusion to recognition to the gray pallor of a man realizing his company's reputation was about to be fed through a government shredder. When Miller returned, I raised an eyebrow. All good, they've been notified. Full. Federal audit, breach of protocol, contract invalidated. They're under immediate review. I exhaled slow and steady. $50 million in government contracts gone. Future federal partnerships gone, company reputation shredded beyond repair. But more than that, the security clearances of other employees would be reviewed, questioned, potentially suspended while investigators determined if the company could be trusted with classified information. Some of my colleagues would lose access to projects they'd worked on for years. The ripple effect would touch every corner of their government relations, every future bid, every attempt to rebuild credibility with federal agencies that had long memories and zero tolerance for security breaches. Rossi handed me a card, simple, cream-colored, with just a name, number, and faint DSS seal. We subcontract oversight roles, especially when primary contractors collapse, the pay better. Her smile deepened. Better and cleaner. You work for the government. Clean isn't exactly the word I'd use. We work with people who understand protocol. People who don't flinch when idiots in HR try to wield power they don't understand. I slipped the card into my pocket next to my badge. By the time I reached my car, the sky had started to clear. The clouds pulled apart, and sun cut through like a spotlight on a stage I'd finally stepped off. I didn't look back. They'd spend months picking up the pieces, trying to explain how they'd fumbled a federal contract over dress pants. But I'd be gone, and they'd never forget my name. I sat for a moment, breathing in the quiet that comes after a storm passes and leaves. Everything changed. The afternoon sun slanted through my windshield. warming my face for the first time in months. In my rearview mirror, I could see the office building growing smaller, its glass facade reflecting nothing but empty sky. I wasn't just walking away from a job. I was stepping into the world I built, thread by thread, qualification by qualification. In the shadows of people who thought they owned me simply because they signed my paychecks. They didn't. They never did. And now they knew it too.